president was in Lima, Ohio, the speech in that battleground state coming ahead of what's expected to be a hotly contested 2020 presidential race. Joining us right now is the former senior advisor to the Clintons, MDC Partners CEO, and Stagwell Group president and managing partner, Mark Penn. Mark, great to see you.
Morning.
Your reaction to the president's comments yesterday about the economy?
Well, he's right about all the jobs that have been created. Most interestingly, women have been piling back into the workforce at greater numbers, and if I were the president, I'd be featuring that as the kind of the most important voter group he's losing, but at the same time, they're getting more than their fair share of new jobs.
Yeah, because in the midterms, he had a problem with women, right, coming out.
He's still got a big problem right now.
Yeah. So that's what he should be appealing to, given the fact that it's a good story for women.
Well, women don't think the economy is as good as men do. Men are much more enthusiastic in the last Harvard-Harris poll about the economy and believe that it's much stronger than women do. They're just more skeptical of the president and economic performance.
Interesting. Let's talk about the Time magazine cover, guys, because in the spotlight, freshman Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's been the loudest voice in the room. We keep talking about all her policies. She's now on the cover of Time magazine's new issue. It comes as she continues to fire back at critics of her Green New Deal proposal. Most recently, she slammed J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon over his comments, implying that it would be an economic setback. Here's what Jamie Dimon said in part: "I don't spend much time worrying about things that I can't effectuate. Can you focus on climate change in an intelligent way that doesn't damage the economy? Yes, you can. So you'd better do it wisely, because you could hurt the economy, which hurts everybody." Ocasio-Cortez responded yesterday, tweeting this: "J.P. Morgan agreed to pay out $13 billion over its massive role in mortgage schemes with the 2008 recession. They also finance major fossil fuel pipelines. It's big money. So maybe they aren't the best authority on prioritizing economic well-being of everyday people and the planet." Wow, Mark, your reaction?
Well, Time magazine cover isn't what it used to be.
That's
I mean, look, I think she's better known than almost all the presidential candidates, and she's become the de facto leader of the Democratic Party right now, and that's a problem. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a little spat with Jamie Dimon, one of the biggest bankers in the world. I'll credit her that.
Well, a commentator recently called her the pace car of the Democratic Party, which is, I think, true, that everybody's following her. And the reason we're talking about a Green New Deal is because of her. The reason we've been talking about individual tax rates above 70% is because of her. And she is, in fact, having probably more influence on the conversation than Nancy Pelosi is.
Yeah. It's funny because, Dagan, when I had Doug Collins on, Congressman Doug Collins on Sunday, he said, "I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the co-speaker now." And when I heard that, I thought, wow, Nancy Pelosi must be fuming if Congress people are calling her the co-speaker.
Nancy Pelosi most certainly probably is irate over that notion. But I don't want to go too far, because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez constantly says things that are just idiotic and very often untrue. She seems to be very fixated on fossil fuels. Well, we use oil, gasoline, and natural gas in this country because they're plentiful and they're inexpensive. And you know what? If you drive up the cost of fuel, then it's going to hurt the poor in this country. It's going to hurt lower-income Americans who cannot afford it. She's also very fixated, and you saw this when the CEO of Wells Fargo was testifying in front of Congress. She's very fixated on the banks that lend money to finance pipelines and other oil production projects. And she seems to equate liability by the lender with, say, an oil spill. She kind of laid that out. This is idiocy, and it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the way that credit and lending works in this country. I just want to say this. It's like blaming an auto lender when someone gets in an accident. When you borrowed money from a credit company to buy a car and you get in an accident, you're going to hold the lender liable. That's how idiotic it is.
Well, I think when she was questioning, Mark, when she was questioning the CEO of Wells Fargo, she asked him why he was caging children. I mean, Seriously.
The question on everyone's mind.
Why was he involved in that?
It was just an attack on banking and finance in general, which is a socialist. That's what she's out doing.
Well, and so that leads to a larger question, sort of 30,000-foot view. You mentioned that she's probably better known in Iowa than most of the Democratic candidates. Is that good or bad for the party? Is it good that they have this fresh face? There's a lot of, you have your Joe Biden's, your Bernie Sanders, a lot of older people running for president. Is it good for the party that you have the fresh, young Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or is it bad because she's out there proposing ludicrous legislation like the Green New Deal?
Well, it's bad because 57% now think the Democratic Party is a socialist party, and 65% of the people in this country are capitalist, not socialist. So that's creating a disconnect between the party and the people.
This is a really good point. So what do you think about that? Because I think when you say to some Democrats, look, why are you favoring socialism, they say it's not socialism. And they try to run away from the term socialism, even though when you look at these programs like a Medicare for All, like a Green New Deal, like the tax situation, a wealth tax that Elizabeth Warren has, some of them, these are federal programs that are socialist programs, are they not?
Well, look, that's what's definitely coming through. What actually winds up on the slate for the Democratic nominee, whether it's a moderate or not, remember, even when the Republican Party veered right, they nominated actually more moderate people like McCain and Romney. So let's see what happens. But right now, the party is being successfully depicted as socialist because she is successfully seen as the leader.
Well, and what's so important and what they're so worried about is that President Trump is making very effective use of labeling them as socialism and is already setting up the 2020 election as a referendum on socialism.
Right.
So it's very effective. A lot of Democrats believe this is extremely unfair to them. You would think that Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are the freshman class in the House, when in fact there are about 60 new Democrats who don't agree with that at all.
Steny Hoyer said that on the floor the other day. He said, look, we're talking about 3 new members. We've got 63 freshmen. I don't want to just talk about 3. Real quick, big congratulations to you, Mark. You were recently named the CEO of MDC Partners, the Stagwell Group, making a $100 million investment in the company. What are your plans as CEO now?
Well, I brought $100 million in myself and complementary assets, and right now I'm going to continue to move these great agencies that I think are undervalued more digital. I'm going to obviously look at costs in the modern world, and we're going to look at collaboration for growth. So I've got a big job to do, but these are great agencies, and they're really attuned to the modern world.
Great, good stuff there. Real quick before you go, who's the best position to go against Donald Trump in 2020 on the Dem side?
Best position, I think former Vice President Biden, because he could take back the working class, and he's the only candidate I see right now who could do that.
You agree with that?
I think he's too old. I think he and Bernie Sanders, who would be 78 and 79 years old, respectively, on Inauguration Day 2021, and there's going to be a generational reckoning in the Democratic Party, and I think they're going to be viewed as people from the past.
Wow, great conversation, everybody. Thank you so much.